Ja, ist so. Hello.
Hello, Haris.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Office Hours. My name is Harris. I'm developer advocate from Dynatrace, and these are Office Hours for Dynatrace app development. Today with me is my colleague, Inda Mohan. Hello, Inda. How are you doing?
Hi, Haris. Hi, everyone. I'm
Yeah.
good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. So for the December Office Hours, we prepared a couple of things. Should we start with the presentation right now? Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
So I hope you grabbed a drink. You can add all of your questions that you have in the respective platform where you're watching us. I'm going to be going through for today's agenda. So we're going to see what you can expect in this session, and that's going to be some new releases and a QA. And of course, we're here to answer everybody's questions regarding app development. My colleague Inda is going to help me answer all of those tricky questions. So we'll get going right ahead. So first and foremost, the Q&A session. We usually pick a couple of questions in this part from our community to see what you've been asking us, and then providing the answers for some knowledge sharing. In that, again, if you want, you can also take a question from me. So we'll take this one first. We've had a user, Crazy Fist, ask a question on how to actually take the DQL query results and then convert it into metrics. Some of the questions were asking how to actually do it. There is a question in that. If you want, you can take it, but I can also take this one.
No, please go ahead. Answer
Okay.
it.
So basically, once you run a DQL inside custom apps or inside any custom JavaScript code, the answer to get the result saved as a metric is on the following screen. So imagine you have a DQL task. Kristen Kreutz, first and foremost, thank you for the answer here, but basically you've explained it here. If you have a time series and then you run a DQL task to return some metrics, you can see on the left part that we get some data. Then we have a data ingest for metrics using the docs as provided here. And in the code here, you basically just import the metrics client, which is needed to get the result and save it as the metrics. You can see here that we run the metrics client command to ingest the body of the response, and then it console logs it if there is an error. So it's fairly simple to do. Very useful if you want to save the metrics that you get created as a DQL query in the custom app. And then afterwards, you can see you'll provide with a question. There is an example of how it actually looks and how you can run it in a workflow, as this is custom JavaScript code, which can be used in the custom app as well. We have the guide to ingest data, and our colleague will share it in the chat with you. So we can move to the next question. The next question was an issue actually with the app settings schema, which is described here on the screen. So you can see that there was an issue where a customer had an error after setting the minimum length and maximum length, so basically parameters of a schema. They were getting an error because of the constraint violation. Here you can see that on the screen, the user set the minimum length to 0. However, above this nested constraint part, there is a nullable, which is true. And then for the solution, which is fairly simple, if the nullable is true, then the minimum length is always 1, meaning it's always going to throw an error. So if you set the nullable to false, then the minimum length of 0 should be considered by the framework. Otherwise, if the nullable is true, then it will not work. So a fairly simple one as well.
So asking again, Haris, just setting nullable to false would fix the problem, right?
Yes, exactly. So you can either set it to false, or you're not allowed to set the minimum length to 0. It's basically trying to overwrite the framework's setting of min length to 0, actually. So yeah, so it kind of conflicts with that, and that's why it fails, basically. Okay, we have a question in. Is there a way? I think we can take this, Inda. Do you want to take it immediately?
Please go ahead. You're the host.
So we have a question from Xi Sparks. Is there a way to fetch problem comments using Grail or DQL? Well, Grail and DQL, those are technically the same things. DQL is a tool to fetch things from Grail. Do you know the answer for this, Inda?
Actually, I don't know. Maybe enlighten me here.
I think you should be able to fetch them. I think if you fetch the problem itself, it should have the comments. And actually, there is an API. Now, in the custom apps, actually, if you use the API, I'm not sure if we have an SDK for that, but it shouldn't be a problem since you can call an API for the custom app. And I will share with you actually the link. I hope John can take this and share it with C Sparks. But basically, yes, you can fetch the problems using Grail.
No, Haris, I think
Okay, so there is an explanation that you can do it in a. So C Spark says that you can do it in the API, but not as an object in DQL. I think the problem as an object itself should be just dt.davis.events, and those will list all the problems as well. Now I would have to check some things to actually see if it contains comments of the problem as well. Not sure if you know about this, Inda, or is there something else you wanted to add on that? Okay, Inda seems to have dropped the connection. I believe that if you, I can check that quickly.
Sorry, I think it's.
Yeah, hello, Inda. Welcome.
For some reason, I'm supposed to just get no bad connection on the office hours. Also, the question was actually about the DQL, right? Yes, there is an API which through you can get the problems, but how would you do that in the DQL, right? And in the DQL, I don't think it's possible.
Do you mean about? Do you think that dt.davis events contains the parameter for that?
I don't know. I mean, what you shared is the API. That's what I'm just describing here now. The API is different than the DQL.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's true. One moment. Okay. I'm just checking for something. I'm just quickly checking, but I don't think it's actually there yet. So I think that even though you can fetch the Davis events, which takes the problems, I don't think it contains all of the comments. So currently, the only solution would be using the API.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe getting back to more app development domain. If you're doing something in the app, then it shouldn't be any difference for you, regardless of how you get the problems, right? You're
Yeah.
getting the API and you're getting the problems there. Doesn't matter, right, for you. But outside of the app development, I think, as we already wrote, that maybe you should go to the in product chat or Dynatrace community where you can ask this question, and people who are expert in DQL or Grail would then be able to answer this question for you.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So in terms of custom apps, you can still use the API, and as Inda said, there is no difference. I hope that works for you, CSparks. And if you have any questions, let us know, please. All right. Moving on to the next question. And this was a fairly recent one. So the user Flomaz wanted to get the current username and ID using the platform API with a token. And in the Swagger UI, there is not an API. However, the solution was kind of asking for even using the SDK. And Inda, do you want to explain this one, since you're the one who answered?
Sure. I mean, it's simple as that. That if we have an SDK now, app environment, and within that app environment SDK, you have basically a function called get current user detail, which gives you the detail of user, email, name, and I think one more thing that you can use then actually basically to get the information about the current logged in user and do something with it, whatever you want, basically, right?
Yeah, there is the API as well, right?
Yeah, so I think that was what you answered there in the question. There is the API, and the SDK also use the underlying API.
Yeah, so this should work. It's quite useful, and there was quite some user asking how to make this work and how does it work, and if we had. So SDK got released, I think, somewhere late November or October, which is great way so you can fetch the current user that is currently browsing. And with that, I think we finish our Q&A section. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know. We're going to go through the new releases. And in December, we have released number 18 of our developer newsletter. You can check it out, and John will share the link with you in the chat. You can check news and events that we have, useful resources, and release highlights in there. There is also a video from our colleague Penny, and Penny made a video about the whole Dynatrace platform, and it's really really fun and useful to understand where the concept of the whole platform of Dynatrace, and then also where the custom apps fall into that, so you can understand how the whole ecosystem works together. So it's pretty fun. Check it out. The link will be in the newsletter, somewhere in the middle, and yeah, that would be it in terms of releases. We have some release highlights, which you can check out at the bottom in terms of component and yeah, basically library updates. And I believe you can also check out all of the other resources such as QA and forum, where we frequently check for the questions and answer those questions where we pick out, such as those today that you've seen, the developer documentation, and of course, every month our office hours. The next one is going to be on Tuesday, on January 7th, the same time as today. And yeah, I don't know if you have something else to add, Inda.
No, not really actually, but since we have enough time, maybe a question to you, Haris. So the problems are the Davis problem, right?
Yes, exactly.
And what does comment mean here? So the question was about to see the comment. Is it the description of the problem event is called comment here?
No, the actual problem would be, it would be an attribute of a problem. The comment would be an attribute of a problem. Um, so it's not in the parameters of the problem. That's why I believe with DQL, if you fetch the problem itself, it doesn't really give you the comments.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you the description, when it started, all of the relevant data. However, it doesn't give you the information about if it has problem, if it has comments or not. So the only way would be to use the API. Now, in the problems app, of course, you can see the comments, which means they get it somehow, probably by the API that we've used previously. So the
Mm-hmm.
same way how you would do it in the custom app, you just check the comments with API.
Yep, you're totally right. With the problems, while fetching the problems with the DQL, you only see just the problems and not the comment. And I think you get it one part from, if you have, for instance, doing the app development, use the DQL to fetch the problem. Then from that, you have, I guess, problem ID, and then you use that with the API to get the comments and then combine them basically together.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, in my opinion, I think eventually it will all come to the SDK, and then you will be able to use. I mean, the whole point of the API is to have an SDK, which is easier for our developers, but um, also the customers that are building the custom apps as well.
Cool. I think that's it. Yep, Haris, back to you.
Yeah. Well, we're currently at standby, waiting for more questions to come in. Um, I guess we can give it a little bit more time, see if anyone joins in and asks something. And again, a reminder, maybe the questions we're looking for is mainly related to the custom apps and the development of custom apps in Dynatrace. Um, there are a lot of questions regarding the whole product, and our colleagues in support actually are really, really qualified for those, and they're experts in all of the areas. So you can always head into the product chat, where you can chat with them, and they will give you a proper, correct answer. And it's a better resource than asking us here. We're much better at the custom apps. And again, if you're watching this in the future, you can ask us in the developer docs, or the QA for I mean the QA forum, not the developer docs. Now we have a question. Do you know if anyone has integrated the new cursor development ID for app development? Inda, could you take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a very big question in a way that, I mean, first of all, I haven't heard it. The cursor is basically an AI code editor for rest of the audience. And if I'm not wrong, it's again the base seems to be like VS Code and the AI built in. I'm pretty sure you can use it, but I don't really know what does integrated mean here for app development. It, I haven't used it personally, but it seems like it's like a GitHub Copilot like tool built into the tool IDE. And if it's like any other IDE, of course you can use it, but I don't have first-hand experience with that.
And there was another question asked by Martin, and I've checked this earlier today. So the question is about authentication while calling the IAM API using the app function. So Martin is calling the IAM API, which is secured by the OAuth, and it doesn't work if you just call it without the boilerplate. So a lot of boilerplate code is included there. And I believe that you might know about this, Inda. I think we talked about it recently. The issue is that, a recommended way to call the APIs are app functions, and the use app function provides the boilerplate out of the box. However, the authentication of this is only for the platform token and not the OAuth. And currently, there is no way to specify the OAuth code in there, so the token. So the problem is that the authentication is not used when you call the API from the app function. You get a 401. And I don't think there is a way to pass the bearer token currently. I believe that if there is an SDK, which I've checked and there is currently none, the only way currently would be to just use the boilerplate code to manually call it. Inda, do you know anything else about it?
I have to read the question quickly because I have to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, sorry.
So it's an API, the /users API that someone is calling from the app function, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one thing for sure is that all the calls that you call from the app function are authenticated with the current user who is logged in the app, right?
Yes, but not
Unless
the OAuth.
you're calling, unless you're calling a different environment, right? Which seems to be the case here. If you look at there's an environment URL, if it's the same environment, I don't think you need any token for that because it's authenticated just by default. Because it's the APIs are called via the app shell, right?
Unless the API itself just doesn't work with a platform token. Maybe it requires the OAuth by default, which I think could be true in Martin's case. And I think there is, again, a little bit of connection issues with Inda. Hope he's back with us shortly. And just a note to Martin, if you can share the code that you actually, the request that you make and the output, so the input and the output that you get from that, in the question that you posted, I thought I sent you a reply, but and now I realized that I didn't send you anything. Just so I can see and check it ourselves, and I will be definitely I will make sure that I give you an answer directly on the question there in the community.
Sorry.
Yeah, welcome back. No worries.
Yeah, today's special day. No, as the question itself says that when I call the API from the F page component, the expected result is returned, right?
Yes.
I think, again, as I said before, I think I would rather have the full code snippet used. Maybe then I can answer it properly.
Yeah.
Without that code snippet being used, it's a bit harder to answer the question for me.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
I've asked Martin to add that to the question so we can take a look. I thought I already had actually answered him to give us those so we can understand it better. But maybe I forgot to click reply to him.
yeah, one thing I want to add though is it says, is there any way to pass the bearer token from the application to app function via payload when using app function? Well, first question is, how would you actually get the bearer token? If you have the bearer token, well, of course you can pass it to app function, but that's not the recommended way of doing it. I think it's not the right thing to do from security perspective. Technically, as said, you can pass literally anything. You have a payload for the app function, and you can throw whatever you want to throw there, right? But I would not recommend doing this. Maybe share the code snippet again, and then we'll try to answer the question via the community for you.
All right, so we'll revisit that as soon as Marco sends us the more information about it. We'll see if we have any more questions. So let's give it a couple of more minutes. If there is any other questions. All right. If there is not any new questions, we'd like to thank you for joining, and thanks for asking the questions. I wish everybody a nice holidays. So Christmas and the New Year's for all of you that celebrate. If anything, we'll see you again January 7th, the same time next year. So this will be our last time this year that we see. Inda, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing special, but what you said, basically, I wish you guys the vacations, holidays, and we see you next time in January 7th.
Well, thank you for joining, both you, Inda, and all of the others who have been today with us. And thank you, and see you next year.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.